Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain Khan. Today, the topic of our show is Chagos Archipelago case in the ICJ. Today, the guest of our show is Mehmet Sukru Guzel, who is a human rights scholar and also an author. We will be discussing the Chagos Archipelago case, and we would like to tell our audience that Mehmet Sukru Guzel often speaks on our shows regarding human rights issues and cases. Welcome to our show, Mehmet Sukru Guzel. It is a pleasure having you on Tactical Talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zain Khan. It's a great pleasure to make another program with you. Many thanks.
Let's get to the first question. What is the Chagos Archipelago case in the ICJ?
The Chagos Archipelago case in the International Court of Justice is a case on decolonization for the illegal detachment of the Chagos Archipelago from the Mauritius government. And before entering my answers to you, I would like to say one more thing. I had warned the Mauritius government that their legal thesis is wrong when I read their text, what they had said during the General Assembly resolutions on Mauritius, and I warned them that they are to lose the case. And then this decision of the International Court of Justice, according to the Mauritius government, is a victory. But in my opinion, it's not a purest victory. They lost the case forever because the International Court of Justice defined the Chagos Archipelago case as a new colony. And what is the case? The case is that Mauritius and Chagos Archipelago was united inside Mauritius as a colony during the time of British administration. And Mauritius was a group of islands in the Indian Ocean, and Chagos Archipelago belonged to them. And Mauritius was a colony under the United Kingdom till the Napoleon Wars. After the wars, Mauritius became a colony of United Kingdom, and until 1965, it registers as a colony, as a British colony. In 1965, they make an agreement between the United Kingdom and the government of the independence movement in the Mauritius, with the name Lancaster House Agreements. And in this agreement, British forced the people coming from Mauritius to accept the detachment of Chagos Archipelago from the Mauritius in the agreement of Lancaster House. And then in 1968, the Mauritius got its independence and became a member of United Nations without Chagos Archipelago. And during this time, in 1964, before the Lancaster House Agreement, the United Kingdom and United States of America made an agreement to use Chagos Archipelago as a defense for the defense needs of the dam, and decided to use as a military base. And when the Lancaster House Agreement was made, after 1 year, the United Kingdom declared British Indian Ocean territory and made a secret agreement with the United States. And in the biggest island, Garcia, one of the biggest U.S. military base was established. And from 1979, Mauritius asked again many times the return of the Chagos Archipelago as to them, and asked at the end, in 2017, with the vote of General Assembly, in a resolution, the General Assembly requested the International Court of Justice to render an advisory opinion, and it asked two questions. One question is the process of, if the process of decolonization of Mauritius lawfully completed when Mauritius was granted independence following the separation of the Chagos Archipelago from Mauritius. And the second one is, what are the consequences under international law, including obligations reflected in the above-mentioned resolution arising from the continued administration of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland in the Chagos Archipelago, with respect to inability of Mauritius to implement a program for the resettlement of the Chagos Archipelago for its nationals, in particular those of Chagos origin. So this is the case in the International Court of Justice, and 2 years later, last year on 25th February, the International Court of Justice concluded its decision, and it says that as an advisory decision, the process of decolonization of Mauritius was not lawfully completed when the country acceded to independence, and that the United Kingdom is under an obligation to bring to end its administration of the Chagos Archipelago as rapidly as possible. This is the case.
Mehmet Sukru Guzel, since you're an author on the subject, on the topic, I've read your book. You say in your book that the first time the ICJ in its history made a material mistake in its decision, quote unquote. What do you mean by that? Explain.
Thank you very much. This is a really important point, because when International Court of Justice gives its decision in Article 38 of its statute, it defines that which sources of law they are to use when it is they are to give their advisory opinion. This is really important for the future of Kashmir as well. Which source of law should be used for its advisory opinion? And the United Kingdom, in the International Court of Justice, and from 1965, it says that we have, this is not a dispute, this is a bilateral dispute between me and Mauritius on the implementation, as I mentioned, Lancaster House Agreement, and I need these places for my defense purposes. And then edit that. I will say that these territories, as whenever I do not require them, and these places now belongs to me. And what has happened is that the International Court of Justice, in its advisory opinion, said that it can never be a free will of the people. One is the authority, and then under international customary law, the Lancaster House agreements are not valid, and they defined Chagos Archipelago as a colony. That is the British Indian Ocean Territory that was established by the United Kingdom. And this is the material mistake, because International Court of Justice used international customary law in its advisory opinion. But they should have used this is Article 38, as I mentioned, for the source of law, paragraph 3. But they should have used Article 38, paragraph A, that is the treaty obligations, because this is what I want the Mauritius government, and I said that their legal thesis is wrong, because they go on the concept of self-determination, and if we go on as an undefined obligations like self-determination, then the International Court of Justice feels free to use what kind of source they can have. But I want the Mauritius government that, let me read it. They should use Article 73 of the UN Charter. Article 73 of the UN Charter is Article 73 of the UN Charter. Article 73 of the UN Charter is under Chapter 11 of the non-self-governing territories. And in the preamble, they created obligations. When they created these obligations, then there is no need of using international customary law, because then the International Court of Justice has obligation to implement a treaty obligation to give the advisory opinion. And if Mauritius government in the International Court of Justice, as I wrote them before, used my thesis, then there will be the breach of an obligation arising from the UN Charter, when no derogation is accepted for the implementation of UN Charter. And then the International Court of Justice have to use Article 103 of the UN Charter, and they will say that any obligation arising from the UN Charter shall prevail of the whole obligations. And they cannot define this as the decision of the International Court of Justice, British Indian Ocean Territory, as a new colony, because you cannot create a colony on the colonization of an colony, because Article 73 in the preamble, they use two things. One is, as the United Kingdom said, that I need these places for defense reasons. citizens. But Article 73 also well defined that all the actions of the administrative power, that is the United Kingdom, must be subject to the collective security system of the UN Charter. That means self-defense is a right for every state, but they should apply to the UN Security Council under Article 39, and they can implement Article 51. But till the UN Security Council gets a decision. But the United Kingdom never applied, even they are a member of the UN Security Council under Article 33 of the UN Charter, to the UN Security Council. So they did not implement Article 73 preamble part for the security part. And the second one is that the preamble of the Article 73 is also defined territorial integrity of a colony. When there is a territorial integrity of a colony, it's accepted as a treaty on territory, and you cannot change any treaty one side on the territorial changements. This has been given in many decisions of the International Court of Justice, and this is null and void in two senses: as an ergo omnes obligation arising, that is, for the third parties also cannot recognize one-sided changement of the territories. And in that sense, the United Kingdom breach its obligations arising from the UN Charter. And when Mauritius government did not define in the International Court of Justice application on the implementation of Article 73, and when the International Court of Justice did not take did not consider Article 73 in its decision, it created a material mistake, because nothing can breach the obligations arising from the UN Charter, and the International Court of Justice is also created by the UN Charter, and their first obligation must protect the implementation of the UN Charter. No derogation is accepted, and this is the material mistake of the International Court of Justice.
Mehmet Sukru Guzel, you hold a very good observation regarding these issues. What could be the outcome of the ICJ case?
Let me read it from my book, The Chagos Archipelago case in the International Court of Justice. Because if the International Court of Justice had used the articles, the breach of the obligation arising from Article 73, they cannot define the British Indian Ocean territory, now the Chagos Archipelago, as a new colony. Let me read it from my book. When the Manchester House Agreement is nullified on the separation of Chagos Archipelago from Mauritius under Article 103 of the Charter, the British Indian Ocean territory cannot be accepted as a colony under the principle of ex injuria jus non oritur. That is, unlawful acts cannot create legal redress. When the International Court of Justice created a colony, it re-put the Chagos Archipelago under the UN system, under a place to be decolonized, a second time decolonized, and it created for the United Kingdom a legal right from its illegal act. And International Court of Justice under the obligation to define de facto status as an illegal obligation. Supplementary means of interpretation of the decision of Manchester House undertakings is manifestly absurd and unreasonable, and International Court of Justice, in the case of Temple of Priya Vina, rejected an interpretation led to an absurd and unreasonable result when the purpose of the text was considered. Creating a colony, namely British Indian Ocean Territory, by the decision of International Court of Justice is an absurd result where Article 73 of the UN Charter does not allow creating a new colony from a colony. And then the decision of International Court of Justice, in this sense, is under the definition of international lawful act of an international organization by not implementing its statute of Article 38, paragraph A. And the important part is that now International Court of Justice gave an advisory opinion. An advisory opinion is subject to the acceptance of the states, that is, in this situation, the United Kingdom. And now when they created a new colony, United Kingdom has no obligation to give the Chagos Archipelago back to the Mauritius. But if they implemented the breach of the obligations from Article 73 of the UN Charter, it cannot be an advisory opinion. The reason is that when there is a violation of the implementation of the UN Charter, then the International Court of Justice has to say that there is the illegal actions in the Chagos Archipelago of by creating British Indian Ocean Territory, and this place is now under military occupation. The International Court of Justice can never legitimize in a different way, like creating a colony, to legitimize the existence of United Kingdom in the Chagos Archipelago case, and the advisory opinion will turn into a, how can I say, an obligation to United Kingdom to leave the Chagos Archipelago as soon as possible.
Mehmet Sukru Guzel, let's get to our last question. Can you tell us more on the unfinished decolonization process in the world? Tell us a little more on that.
Thank you very much. Well, there are now legally 17 places which are not decolonized, and they are under the Committee of 24 of the UN Fourth Committee, the legal Political and Decolonization Committee. And there are other places like Alaska and Hawaii, which ask there for independence for the wrong implementation of their decolonization process. And also this includes the Kashmir. Kashmir is a non-finished decolonization process. Even it is now not listed under non-decolonized places, but within the UN Security Council resolutions, the Kashmir issue is a decolonization unfinished process, and it is between the UN Security Council and the Decolonization Committee and the UN Human Rights Council, because nothing is vanished in the UN Charter, and especially when it is a decolonization. And when I would like to say that the revocation of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution last year is null and void, and because it's a decolonization case, and then the territory does not belong to still India, and India cannot give a decision on on an ongoing decolonization process as an integral problem of India. The decolonization process in the UN Charter, unfortunately, is subject to the will of the administrative states. And now the United Nations, for the last 30 years, could not achieve to have any decolonization. And in the next some 10 years, I do believe that there cannot be a new decolonization case from the 17 decolonization countries, because the process of administration of the states for the colonies are formulated by the colonial states during the Second World War, and when the United Nations Charter prepared in San Francisco Conference, this Article 73 is prepared according to the will of the states of the colonial powers, and this is our problem, and this is why we are fighting on the decolonization process. And as an example of the Chagos Archipelago case, the states are still refuse to implement decolonization and still want to have a colonial empire culture in this century. What I would like to say is that for the future, the decision of the International Court of Justice on Chagos Archipelago case is an important issue, how International Court of Justice can still legitimize ongoing colonization. And if Mauritius had made a big mistake, if they had used the Article 73 of the UN Charter for this process, the decade for the decolonization can be faster for the still going on 17 states and plus Alaska, Hawaii, and Kashmir.
Thank you so much, Mehmet Sukru Guzel, for being on Tactical Talk. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure. Many thanks. Merci beaucoup.
This was Mehmet Sukru Guzel discussing the Chagos Archipelago case. Mehmet Sukru Guzel often joins us on Tactical Talk discussing global human rights issues and also cases. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain Khan. Take care and goodbye.